The Mysterious Life of Madeleine, TV pilot by Noel. Fade in, exterior, helicopter, day. Superimpose, Egypt. A helicopter looms overhead in the hot desert sun. A Middle Eastern man, Abdul, 30s, peers out over the plate glass window with his binoculars as a pilot navigates. He searches. His vision rests on ant-sized humans working below. He motions to the pilot to take the chopper down. The pilot acknowledges. Exterior, archaeology dig continuous. Kneeling and examining a fossilized bone is Madeleine Dupree, 30, an attractive, sharp-tongued archaeologist with an androgynous edge. The noise of the chopper disrupts her focus as well as her father's, Francois Dupree, 60s, a Frenchman. They rise simultaneously. They shade their eyes with their hands and watch with curiosity. A swirl of sand rotates around the ground as the chopper lands. Abdul exits and jogs towards Madeleine and Francois. He stands erect. He fishes inside his bomber jacket and pulls out a folded paper. He is about to speak and is interrupted.
You landed a little too close, don't you think?
I'm sorry, but I have urgent news to return you to field office immediately.
Abdul hands the paper to Madeleine as she eagerly unfolds it.
What could be that important? You could have radioed, or better yet, called.
Francois leans in to read, placing his arm around Madeleine's waist.
Save your breath, Dad. He's only a messenger.
Abdul is insulted and his body turns rigid.
I am a graduate of the Royal Air Force. I studied at Oxford, and my father is a well-known dignitary. No, Miss Dupree, I'm no messenger.
I didn't mean no disrespect.
Francois notices the tension and moves in to diffuse it.
Oh, forgive my daughter. She grew up in America.
Abdul grins and relaxes his body.
I wonder what this is all about.
Francois moves away from Madeleine and scratches his head.
He specifically asked for me.
Did Dr. Washington tell you anything else?
No, sir.
Abdul turns and gives his pilot 2 thumbs up.
I guess I don't have a choice, huh?
I'll back.
Interior, J.W.'s office, day. An ornate desk with a name plaque of John Worthington, Director of Antiquities, sits prominently. Madeleine and Francois sit side by side, bored, tapping their fingers on their knees. The door bursts open. Madeleine and Francois turn around simultaneously. They watch as J.W., 60s, an Englishman with a commanding presence, wobbles as he walks to his desk.
Good to have you here, Madeleine. Francois, good to see you too.
Madeleine and Francois acknowledge J.W. with nods. J.W. maneuvers his obese body to sit down. He has difficulty and plops down.
You got my daughter in for what? You know we're close to finding...
Yes, I should have known better. I received a request from Machu Picchu for your services, Madeleine. A man by the name of Andreas Martinez.
Madeleine rolls her eyes. Francois notices.
Andreas? Wasn't he the man you...
Talk about it later, Dad.
Yes, who was I? Yes, he's there now.
Madeleine shifts in her seat, irritated.
What is it about?
Well, something is happening in the mountains.
Madeleine interrupts.
I'm very honored and all, but as you can see, my father and I...
J.W. interrupts and hands a phone with video to Madeleine.
Along with this formal request, they sent a video. Here.
Madeleine and Francois are glued to the unseen images as J.W. explains.
It was sent by Dr. Fisher. He heads our sister office in Peru. Dr. Fisher has managed to keep this hush until he knows what he's dealing with. It would be appreciated if you could accommodate this urgent request.
Madeleine is alarmed by an image.
What was that?
Dissolve 2, interior airplane day. The plane is packed with passengers. Madeleine wears a business suit with an open collar shirt. She fastens her seatbelt. She checks out the passenger next to her. Later, the stewardess removes Madeleine's food tray and that of other passengers. Later, Madeleine sleeps. Her head rests against the window with a blanket over her body. Later, the plane unexpectedly dips. Madeleine abruptly wakens. The fastened seatbelt sign appears. She checks her belt. The captain announces on the intercom.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing slight turbulence and ask that you please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelt.
A short beat. The plane dips and vibrates ferociously. An overhead bin opens. A luggage falls out. Seats and bodies shake uncontrollably. The plane slightly nosedives and passengers scream. Madeline's trembled hand enters her blouse and finds a chain with a dangling artifact at the tip. She closes her eyes almost in prayer. She squeezes. Immediately, the vibration stops and the plane levels off. Madeleine releases her grip. She exhales. A calm announcement from the captain.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just experienced a slight turbulence, but we expect a smooth ride for the remainder of this trip. Our altitude presently...
Madeleine, unhinged, sarcastically engages a traumatized passenger next to her.
Did it say slight turbulence?
Thank you, God.
The passenger sighs.
I will live to see my family another day.
Madeleine nods in agreement. A beat. A pensive Madeleine rests her head against the window, watching the clouds pass by. Interior, airport corridor, continuous. Madeleine walks briskly inside the terminal, phone to her ear.
Okay, yes, I understand. We'll talk again after I've met everyone. And Dad, the plane almost... Dad? Dad?
Interior, escalator, baggage claim, continuous. Madeleine descends the escalator and locks eyes with Andreas Martinez, 40s, a charming, handsome, and cocky anthropologist with questionable motives. He seductively waits below. Madeleine moves in for a handshake.
Andreas, how are you?
2 kisses are planted on each cheek by Andreas. She clams up. He releases the embrace and looks down.
Here, let me.
Interior, car, continuous. Madeleine is aloof while Andreas is relaxed and chatty.
I should have mentioned that this will be a little different, more spiritual than archaeological. Your tools.
My tools travel with me wherever I go.
A pause by Andreas.
You're right.
A long silence.
I missed you.
Madeleine does not answer, her head turned away as she watches the scenery.
I guess I deserve that.
What happened to him? What was that thing on the video? I've never seen anything quite like it. That darkness, that scream.
There are stories of Diablo in the mountains.
Madeleine squirms and is agitated.
I love my father. He's getting old, you know. He needs me.
I also need you.
Madeleine succumbs. Andreas smiles and pats her thigh.
Good to have you here.
Exterior camp, night. Madeleine exits the car and stretches her body, while visually checking out the exotic, dilapidated huts and natives busy with their chores. Andreas, in the rear, unloads the trunk with the help of a native. Dr. Castillo, 60s, a tall, thin man with a machete strapped to his side, approaches Andreas from behind. He is a psychologist and an expert in the field of voodoo and Santeria. They shake hands. They walk to the front of the car. Madeleine, with her eyes closed, stretching, touching her toes, etc., is unaware of Andreas and Dr. Castillo's presence next to her, admiring her movement.
Madeleine.
She abruptly opens her eyes.
Oh,
Dr. Castillo moves forward, hand outstretched, eyeing Madeleine approvingly.
This is Dr. Castillo.
They shake hands.
nice to meet you.
They release the handshake.
I've heard a lot about you from Andreas.
I hope it was positive.
It was.
Good.
Dr. Castillo signals for a native to come and pick up Madeleine's luggage. A beat later, crunching sound of gravel is heard as they walk to the distant huts. 2 natives wobble behind with loads of heavy luggage.
I would like to brief you in the reception room later. Dr. Fisher sends his apologies for not being here. He had to leave unexpectedly.
Do you know when he'll return?
Tomorrow, I hope. Now, I will let Andreas take you to your room to freshen up. Dinner is in 1 hour.
Interior, reception room later. Madeleine examines Aztec artifacts on the wall while tying her hair back. She suddenly notices an encased luminous green rock with red drips on the table. She circles it, then bends down to take a closer look.
I see your fascination with this object. That is the object that Dr. Watson came in contact with.
Gentlemen, if you would permit me.
I wouldn't do that.
Madeleine freezes. She looks up confused.
But don't touch anything. Caution is always on the side of prudence.
Dr. Castillo, I think she needs to know the whole story.
I'm all ears, gentlemen.
I was there.
Madeleine walks around the case, examining, listening.
You were?
I was waiting in the jeep. He stumbled out of the cave. Miguel placed him in the back seat with me. This fell out of his hand. His camera strapped around his neck.
Gentlemen. But, forgive me for saying this, but A goddamn rock that causes a man to bleed and a dark mist or apparition or whatever it is that's alive?
Why is Dr. Watson in the hospital? Can you answer that?
Madeleine slowly slides off her hand. An eerie silence looms thereafter. Interior, Madeleine's room, later. Madeleine, dressed in her nighties, is distressed as she dials a number.
Hello? Hello?
Dad, it's me.
Maddie! I'm so glad you called.
Sorry to wake you, but Dad, there's something going on here. And
Go on.
Mom told me something before she passed away.
Yes, I'm listening.
It's just that I'm about to leave and
Something is wrong, isn't it?
Mom said she came across something sinister in Egypt about 31 years ago. Before I was born. I never quite understood what she was trying to tell me, but Dad? Dad, can you hear me?
What? What? Oh dear. Maddie! Maddie!
Dad! Dad! Dad!
Dissolve to interior Egypt tomb, day. Superimpose 31 years ago. The tomb is ominously dark with a few illuminated lamps on the ground. Evelyn, 30s, a chiseled-faced, beautiful woman, lithe and muscular, is on her knees digging. J.W., younger, approaches with his flashlight. Evelyn is keenly aware of his presence.
Is that you, John?
J.W. looks over her shoulder.
What do you have there?
I don't know, but this rock seems to be loosening.
J.W. is antsy to leave.
Okay, just stopped by to check on you. I found a chamber. Going to examine it. Are you okay here alone?
I'm stronger than 10 men, you know that.
John chuckles and exits. A long beat later. Evelyn has amassed a pile of dirt and rocks off to the side. A man's scream awakens Evelyn. She freezes. She grabs her flashlight and runs out.
Oh God, I'm coming! John? John! John! Oh God, John!
Evelyn follows the sound of the screams. She enters a tomb. The screams have stopped. She is in awe as her flashlight zeroes in on half-man, half-animal statues carved out of the walls. She calls out.
John? Please? Where are you?
Her flashlight zeroing in on menacing gargoyles as a roar sound forces her to turn around. The roar sound consumes the entire tomb. She spins around and around when her flashlight zeroes in on a black mist oozing out of the wall. Evelyn, gripped with fear, begins to backpedal and bumps into J.W. She spins in fear, her flashlight resting on a familiar face.
John. Oh, John, it's you.
J.W. is in a trance. She is befuddled. Evelyn lowers her flashlight and scans his body. He is nude.
John? Why are you?
Evelyn hears a roar. She spins around with her flashlight. The dark mist approaches with speed. The flashlight drops on the ground. Silence. Later, animal mating sound is heard. A silhouette of a nude Evelyn making love with J.W. Her nails dig deep into his flesh, her face contorted and possessed. J.W.'s eyes fiery red. 2 horns protrude out of his skull. 2 pointy fangs hang from his mouth as white foam spews out. An animal-like scream propels out of J.W. She faints. Dissolve to interior tomb, later. Evelyn on the ground with her clothes on. J.W. slapping her gently on the face.
Evelyn. Evelyn, wake up.
Evelyn coughs, her eyes flicker open.
Oh, what happened? My head. Where?
You fainted. Are you all right?
You were naked.
What are you talking about? Evelyn, you fainted. Plus, your husband wouldn't be happy about another man naked in front of his wife. Come on, big girl. Get up.
Evelyn sits up. She places her hands to her face, voice groggy.
I had this dream. Oh God, it felt so real. There were statues in a dark mist. Where did they go? And you...
Come. We're quitting for today.
Evelyn nods yes. J.W. helps her up.
Taking you to the hospital. I'll contact Francois and have him meet us there.
No, don't bother him. He's teaching at the university.
He's your husband.
Maybe you're right.
Evelyn limps out with J.W.'s help. A sudden cramp forces her to grab her lower stomach. Interior hospital room, day. Francois at Evelyn's bedside, lovingly touching her hand. J.W. on the opposite side. Her eyes flicker open.
Darling, are you all right? The doctor said it was fatigue.
Evelyn is in a daze.
And a case of severe anemia.
Can you give us some privacy?
Of course. I have to get back to the office anyway. She's a trooper, and you're one lucky man.
I know I am.
Evelyn and Francois are alone. She begins to sob.
I don't even know what happened today.
Today, Evelyn, you've been asleep for 2 days.
Evelyn is in shock.
What? 2 days?
Interior bedroom night. Inside their modestly decorated bedroom, Francois and Evelyn make passionate love. Francois is surprised at her sexual aggression. Later, Francois is short of breath.
Wow!
Evelyn's head sharply turns.
Who are you?
Evelyn in a daze.
I don't know.
Dissolve to interior hospital maternity ward day. A newborn cries incessantly as she's carried by a nurse and placed on top of Evelyn's breasts. The baby's cry immediately stops. Francois and Evelyn look on proudly.
She is beautiful. She is our miracle child.
We're going to call her Madeleine, after the sacred saint.
Francois looks on proudly. Dissolve to exterior Jeep day, present day. The red Jeep speeds along the unpaved road with dust and pebbles flying. Interior Jeep continuous. Miguel drives with wild abandonment, his hands gripped tightly at the wheel. Dr. Castillo next to him. Andreas and Madeleine sit in the rear, estranged. A beat. Dr. Castillo proudly pats Miguel's shoulder.
Thank you for coming on this trip.
Miguel ponders, then frowns.
I'm very poor and have a wife and 4 kids to feed. I'm doing this for them. Doctor, I'm very afraid.
I've paid you very well, have I not?
Miguel nods yes, but with apprehension. Exterior, tents, night. 2 tents are mounted on the ground. Interior, tent, Dr. Castillo and Miguel, continuous. Dr. Castillo and Miguel are asleep and snoring loudly. Interior, tent, Madeleine and Andreas, continuous. Andreas sits squat without his shirt, pouring the last drops of wine into Madeleine's cup, her legs outstretched. She nods, then sips. Later, Andreas and Madeleine on opposite ends of the tent. She is about to turn off the Madeleine kerosene lamp as an unidentifiable loud noise is heard. Her head snaps around in curiosity. Andreas watches her seductively in the distance. Madeleine turns off the lamp. Later, a sliver of the moon's light shines through an opening. Madeleine's eyes are wide open as she tosses and turns.
Andreas. Andreas. Andreas, are you asleep?
Andreas does not respond. Interior, tent, Madeleine and Andreas, sunrise. A concerto of birds chirp outside. Madeleine awakens with Andreas's arm wrapped around her waist. A blanket covers them waist down. Madeleine gently lifts up Andreas's arm, not to wake him. He slowly stirs and yawns.
Good morning, beautiful.
Madeleine moves to stand up. Andreas gently grabs her arm.
Don't run away.
Madeleine gently removes his hand. She picks up her clothes left nearby and begins to dress.
I must stay focused.
I can do both.
Madeleine is agitated.
Well, I guess that's why you're born with the Y chromosome and I with an X. Or is it the other way around in your case?
Andreas ponders her statement and chuckles.
I forgot why I fell in love with you.
Madeleine hurriedly puts on her boots and exits. Andreas shakes his head in disbelief. He stands, his toned buttocks in full view. Exterior, Jeep Road, day. A mild rain falls on the Jeep, increasing to a monsoon. The road is muddy as the Jeep swerves dangerously. Interior, Jeep continuous. Miguel's hands tightly grip the wheel as the wipers move at maximum pace. Dr. Castillo motions for him to park on the side of the road. Later, a lightning strikes loudly and unexpectedly as they are parked. All 4 bodies jump up simultaneously. Miguel screams, his hand to his chest. Exterior, interior, Jeep, continuous. Lightning strikes and hits a tree. The tree falls within a few feet of the Jeep. Miguel jumps and screams. Interior, Jeep, continuous. Miguel makes the sign of the cross 3 times as the car rocks back and forth. Andreas shows concern and slides his hand over to Madeleine. Their fingers faintly touch. Dr. Castillo, with bulging eyes, grips the handlebar. Madeleine, with her free hand, finds an opening inside her shirt and finds her chain. She closes her eyes and squeezes. Abruptly, the rain stops. The dark clouds move out of the way for the sun to shine. A beat. Madeleine wipes dew off her pain and takes a deep breath.
Fascinating.
Andreas slides over.
What is it?
You see it, don't you?
Yes, the Twin Peaks.
What a coincidence.
Yes.
Dissolve 2. Interior JW's office day. Francois sits in JW's office. His valise is on his lap, tapping nervously on the weathered case. JW bursts open the door and wobbles forward.
I'm surprised to see you here. What's this about, Francois?
Francois eyes JW nervously as JW walks to his chair and plops down.
You're my best friend, JW, and I need to talk to someone. I received a disturbing call from Madeleine a day ago.
JW feigns interest in paperwork on top of his desk.
Is she all right? Anything wrong?
She remembered the story her mother told her before she died. Something that happened 31 years ago.
JW's face is filled with guilt, avoids eye contact.
Yes, go on.
Right after Madeleine was born, she became distant. Her only concern was for Maddie. A few years later, religion became her primary focus. Then she left me for the church.
I'm so sorry, Francois. I know how much you miss her, and so do I.
Francois is taken aback.
Somehow I feel it was my fault. I should have...
Francois ponders.
Were you in love with her too?
A long, long pause by JW.
Yes. But she married you, not me.
Francois is speechless and stands up with his valise in hand, ready to exit.
Meet me tonight at my home.
I can't. Preparing to leave for Peru in 2 days. I have a lot of business to finish up.
JW slams his fist down on the desk, and his voice stern with authority.
Just be there.
Francois confusingly nods yes and timidly exits. Interior, JW's home, bar, living room, night. The living room is opulent with Egyptian statues and artifacts. JW in his smoking jacket. Francois in his street clothes. They sit near a bar drinking. The bottle of cognac close by a side table. JW refills his glass and guzzles down in one gulp. Francois notices.
Thanks for the invitation to spend the night.
JW refills his glass, emptying the bottle. He gulps down in one swig. Francois is concerned.
Hey, take it easy on that stuff.
JW's words are slurry.
It's just this last drink, huh?
I've never seen you like this.
JW places his glass down and spins around sinisterly.
You never really did know me, did you?
Francois is befuddled and lays his glass down.
You're not telling me something, JW.
JW's eyes begin to tear. He places both hands over his face to hide.
My God, man, I've never seen you cry before.
Francois reaches out to console him.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
JW, sometimes all we have left is the truth.
JW slowly removes his hands from his face. The look is distant.
Get me some water, will you?
Francois leaves the room. He returns with a glass of water. He hands it to JW. JW places it down on the side table. Francois remains standing, concerned for JW.
What story did I tell you, Francois?
Francois is taken aback. He sits down on the couch.
What do you mean?
A story about the tomb and Evelyn.
I don't know. I don't remember anymore.
JW stands up with his empty glass and walks to the bar.
Are you suspicious?
Francois is taken aback.
Should I leave?
JW pours another drink. His back to Francois, he guzzles down another. Eerily, he speaks, his voice deeper in tone.
Better to let things stay the way they are.
Francois stands and approaches JW.
You've had enough.
There are things bigger than you and me, my dear friend.
JW, you're scaring me.
JW turns, eyes fiery red. Francois in shock, his eyes bulging.
Your daughter is not your daughter.
Francois begins to backpedal.
What are you saying? I don't understand. Your eyes. What's wrong with your eyes?
JW foams at the mouth as he walks menacingly towards Francois, his hand inside his pocket, touching something.
Your daughter doesn't belong to you. She belongs to the second coming.
Francois eyes his luggage near the door. He makes a quick dash and grabs it. JW lunges with a large knife, aiming for his heart. Francois screams as he swings back his luggage and whacks JW.
Ah!
JW falls down with a thud as the knife spins away on the floor. Francois frantically opens the door and flees. Dissolve 2. Interior. Cairo Airport corridor. Ticket counter. Night. Francois darts passengers in the airport while on the phone. A beat. Francois, with the phone in his ear, places his luggage down at the departure line. He fidgets nervously as he stands behind a well-dressed businessman.
Come on, sweetie, pick up.
Francois impatiently peeks up the line and counts the number of passengers ahead of him. He sighs.
Damn it.
Francois' turn is up and dashes to the counter where a dark-haired, classy Egyptian agent with a mesmerizing voice types on her computer.
Where are you flying to, sir?
Paris.
Ticket, please.
No ticket.
The agent looks up. She scans him closely for a beat. She is pleased and looks down at her computer. Francois taps his fingers nervously on the counter as he waits. A loud crash is heard. The agent looks up calmly in the distance. Francois' body flinches and swiftly turns. The agent calmly returns to her work. Francois scans the area for a sign of danger. His vision rests on an overturned garbage can, with the janitor feverishly sweeping up the mess. He pulls out a kerchief from his rear pocket, dabs his sweaty forehead. He returns to the agent.
Passport, please.
He enters his shirt pocket and nervously hands his passport. Beads of sweat form on his forehead as he wipes it down with his kerchief.
How will you pay, sir?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Francois enters his back pocket and pulls out his wallet and searches for a credit card. Satisfied with the one, he places it on the counter.
Our next flight is at 10 o'clock in the morning. That will be approximately 13 hours from...
Damn it! Anything earlier?
There is a flight departing now in the next 5 minutes.
Francois' eyes light up.
A flight leaving now for France?
Yes, sir, but unfortunately it's all booked.
Interior, plain, galley, continuous. An angry, disheveled man with a beard is being escorted out of the plane by 2 policemen, 1 and 2, each with a firm grip on his arm. He pleads his case. Passengers whisper and watch in awe at the spectacle.
What have I done? What have I done?
We have been asked to detain you by our superiors.
The disheveled man squirms his body to get away. The policemen tighten their grip. Francois tries to squeeze past the trio's path inside the galley. He overhears.
Don't make it more difficult on yourself. If you check out, you'll leave on the next plane in the morning.
Francois' head lowers in guilt. He avoids eye contact with the trio. Interior, plain. The stewardess with jet black hair and a pretty wide smile takes Francois' ticket and points the way. Francois is about to sit down and rises up again and begins to scan the row of seats with unfamiliar faces. He scans each face with suspicion. The stewardess stands behind him, slightly agitated. Francois avoids her repeated demands.
Mr. Dupree, if you could please take your seat now.
A short beat.
Mr. Dupree, we are running behind schedule.
Satisfied, he sits down and fastens his seatbelt. Later, the plane is airborne as the stewardess approaches. She bends down and whispers in his ear.
Is there anything special you would like, Mr. Dupree? Champagne, perhaps?
Yes, it makes us a hope of it.
Of course. You paid a very high premium for this seat.
Francois does not respond. He sighs, stretches his legs, and closes his eyes. Exterior, nun monastery, France, day. Francois rings the bell to the monastery. A French-speaking nun opens the door. French
Yes?
subtitle.
Yes?
Yes, my name is Francois Dupré, and I'm looking for Mother Superior.
Yes?
Are you...
No, I'm not.
Nun examines Francois with curiosity.
No, she's been called away. She'll be back in a few days.
Francois looks away.
It would be too late.
Nun wants to help.
What is your urgency, sir?
My wife, I mean my ex-wife, she lived here.
Maybe I can help. I'm in charge until Mother Superior's return.
The nun motions him to enter. Interior courtyard continuous. A myriad of gardens, fountains, and statues line the brick walkway. They sit.
Yes, I remember Sister Mary. A kind soul, we all knew about her leaving a daughter and a husband. She chose this life for a reason.
Yes, I know.
She wanted to know God, which she eventually did. I believe her sacrifice was for a higher purpose.
How well did you know her?
We arrived around the same time.
Tell me, did she ever say anything about the birth of our daughter or anything unusual?
No, nothing I can remember.
What about her writings, her personal things.
Well, she died 5 years ago. I would have to go to...
Please.
Wait here.
Later, Francois paces the courtyard floor. The nun returns with bound papers and a wooden box. Francois's eyes light up.
The Lord is on your side today.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
While I searched for her belongings, I remember the Pope blessing her with the cross.
Francois ponders for a long beat, then whispers.
She wears it today. Now for another favor. Is there an office I can use?
End of French subtitle. Exterior gravesite day. The grave sits behind the monastery. Francois kneels down in front of the headstone. He places one solitary flower. He closes his eyes.
My darling, please forgive me for not being there for you, for not seeing your torment. I now understand your reason for leaving. I will find our daughter and bring her home safe, I promise you.
Francois stands up and quickly leaves. Exterior, cave, mountain, day. The jeep arrives at the cave opening. Dr. Castillo beams with excitement. They exit the jeep. Later, Miguel brings out backpacks and tools and lays it down. Later, they strap on their gears. A camera strapped around Dr. Castillo, headlights attached to their helmets. Dr. Castillo checks and secures his large machete strapped to his side. Madeleine feels for her chain. They do an inspection of each other. Satisfied, they take deep breaths, turn on their headlights, and enter.
Don't touch anything, gentlemen.
Interior, cave, mountain, continuous. They cautiously walk, passing large rock formations, slimy, oozing walls of green algae, slippery, wet ground. Madeleine's flashlight sees a small yellow flag. She taps Dr. Castillo on the shoulder and points to it.
Good. Let's follow.
The passageway ahead narrows. Later, Madeleine shrieks as a large scorpion passes near her face. She flicks it off the wall and crushes it with her foot. Andreas is impressed and admires her bravado. Later, a cold air blows as they pass a tall, jagged-edged, cavernous opening. Andreas shivers.
I hate the cold.
Madeleine encourages the men.
Shall we continue, gentlemen?
Yes. Are you all right, Andreas?
Yes.
Dr. Castillo and Madeleine giggle. Later, Madeleine leads the group with Andreas and Dr. Castillo in the rear. Her flashlight shines on a flag. She points down. Andreas and Dr. Castillo acknowledge. Later, Andreas is chatty in an open area inside the cave.
I never told you the story of how I ended up in Egypt, did I?
The only story you forgot to tell me was that you were married.
Dr. Castillo grins.
Well, I'm divorced now.
Dr. Castillo shakes his head in disbelief.
As much as I am enjoying this novella, I need the two of you to stay focused.
Later, the trio enters a large cavernous circular chamber. They spin around in awe. Their headlights show strange drawings on the rocks. They spin around enthralled, mesmerized, inquisitive for a long beat. Suddenly, an eerie sound is heard. They freeze.
What was that?
Don't know.
A loud roaring sound echoes. They remain frozen.
What the hell was that?
I think it's coming from over there.
No, it's from over there.
No, stay together.
The three are separated. A dark mist quickly engulfs the cave. A deafening, loud, screeching roar echoes throughout. Their hands cup their ears. Confusion sets in. Headlights spin around in the dark, then loud crashes, then loud, piercing screams, splashes of blood strewn against the wall. One by one, headlights disappear as the roar of the foreign entity engulfs the entire cavern for a long, long, long beat. Then a vacuum sound is heard seeping itself back inside the rocks. Then silence. Dissolve to interior cave night. Three separated bodies lie on the ground. Madeleine stirs. She looks around in the darkness. Her hand feebly searches inside her pant pocket. She pulls out a small flashlight. She flicks it on. She searches. The light reveals the twisted, motionless body of Dr. Castillo. Madeleine crawls to him, her flashlight on his face. She recoils in shock. His throat slashed from ear to ear, claw marks on his body, his arm socket disconnected from his body. Madeleine crawls away in horror. She frantically searches for Andreas with her light. Her light rests on blood-splattered walls. She cringes. Under the wall lays Andreas's motionless body. She crawls to him.
Please, please be alive.
She reaches him and vigorously shakes him. Andreas grunts. Madeleine sobs as she hugs him tightly. Interior, Jeep, sunrise. Miguel at the wheel driving like a crazed man on speed. His eyes pop out of its sockets. Andreas' shirt is torn with blood on his lips and a gash on his forehead. Madeleine next to him, her clothes torn, blood on her face. Miguel driving erratically, glancing back at the mountain in his rearview mirror.
It's the devil. We're all going to die.
Exterior, Jeep, road, ravine, continuous. A large rock is ahead. Miguel swerves to avoid the rock. A ravine waits on the other side as the Jeep begins its descent. The Jeep rests with its four wheels facing up to the sky, in the plateau. A long silence ensues. Madeleine opens her eyes to find a contorted body of Andreas on top of her. Andreas moans. She is relieved. She looks for Miguel. He is gone. Madeleine's first try is futile as the door is jammed. She closes her eyes and pushes against the door with unfounded human strength. The door bursts open. Madeleine, with superhuman strength, drags Andreas's body out safely under a tree. Madeleine limps over to the trunk of the Jeep. She searches and finds a canteen. In the corner of her eye, she notices two boots under the Jeep. She cringes as she taps Miguel's boot. He does not respond. She limps back with the canteen to Andreas.
Here, drink. Wake up and drink this.
Andreas opens his eyes. Later, underneath the tree, they pass out. Dissolve to interior cave, day. Madeleine's vision is fuzzy. She blinks repeatedly to refocus. Her blurry vision shows a heavy-set man, his speech groggy and slow. She tries to sit up and falls back down.
I've given you a sedative, my dear. Please be still.
Dr. Worthington?
Not now. I'll explain everything. Now I need to take you back inside so the ritual can be completed.
Madeleine attempts to sit up.
What ritual?
You see, my dear, you are not your father's child.
Madeleine attempts to get up.
Now, just lie still. Everything will soon be over.
Where's Andreas?
Oh, I think he's going to die if he's not dead already.
A tear falls down her cheek. Madeleine fights to stay awake.
You see, I've been searching for many years for this second sight, for the next rite of passage. Many years ago, I found a tomb and came across an inscription detailing a coming of an antichrist or devil or whatever you call him in Egypt. His powers would be vast, beyond anything man has ever seen. I kept the secret to myself. Many years later, I finally understood the message. The message was in 3 parts. A maiden had to be sacrificed. I chose your mother to be the carrier or vessel to begin this journey. She was to bear a child, and that child was to be mated with the second coming. And that's you, Madeleine. You are the second part. You will bear a child born from the true God. He is here, waiting for you. Your child will be the one who rules the world.
Tears stream down her face, her body rigid.
The sacrifice went terribly wrong, but I know why now.
J.W. gently unhooks the chain around her neck. He looks at it. It starts to glow and burn his hand. He quickly finds a kerchief inside his pocket and wraps it. He throws it on the floor. J.W. lifts up Madeleine. They enter the circular tomb. He lays her down on the ground. Dark mist appears. At the same time, Andreas hides in the distance, listening in on J.W. A pain shoots down his leg. He makes a painful grimace. He watches J.W. lift up Madeleine. He follows them, picking up the kerchief with the chain along the way. Andreas waits at a distance. He watches as the mist enters J.W.'s body. With J.W.'s back turned, Andreas springs from behind and clasps the chain shut around J.W.'s neck. An immediate smoldering of the flesh. J.W. screams. J.W. grabs his throat to remove the chain. A louder scream is heard. His hands have burned to the bone. Flames shoot from out his neck, melting his face, continuing down his body. 2 screams are heard, an animal scream, then a human scream. 2 entities burning. J.W.'s body flails around, bumping into walls, spinning. Screams of unfathomable nature are heard. Andreas and Madeleine turn around in time to see J.W.'s body burst into flames. He drags her body out of the narrow entrance. Exterior, mountain, continuous. Andreas pushes Madeleine inside JW's yellow Jeep. Andreas limps around to enter the driver's side. He notices 2 dead bodies with their throats cut in the bushes. Andreas frantically drives off. Dissolve to interior Peru hospital room day. There is a silence in the room. Andreas naps sitting on an armchair near the window, his legs outstretched with bandages on his face and sling around his arm. Francois sits in a chair near the bed. He watches for a sign of life, caressing her hand. An intravenous drip in her arm and a life monitor attached to the index finger beep constantly. A large round clock above the doorframe as the second hand ticks. A wooden crucifix is nailed high above the bed. Later, Madeleine's eyes flicker, then stop. Francois jumps up.
She's awake!
Andreas jolts up and rushes to the monitor. He stares at the needle's erratic movement. His eyes light up.
Something is happening.
Francois is elated.
Maddie! Maddie! Maddie!
A slight flicker to her eyes.
Yes, that's it. Open your eyes.
A beat. Her head slowly turns in Francois' direction. Her voice raspy. She groggily and feebly speaks.
Hi, Dad.
Francois is overjoyed as tears fall from his eyes.
How's my girl?
Andreas intervenes.
How do you feel, my love?
Her head slowly turns in Andreas' direction. Francois stares at Andreas with ambivalence.
Alive?
Francois interrupts.
As soon as you're better, we leave this place.
Madeleine blinks and nods yes.
How long?
7 days.
Madeleine is taken aback and attempts to get up. Francois gently forces her back down.
No, not now, dear.
A beat. Madeleine in a fog and daze.
Dad? This is Andreas.
Andreas and Francois glance perplexedly at each other.
We've already met.
Madeleine appears foolish.
Oh, yes.
Now, you'll be fine as soon as...
Andreas and Francois' heads turn simultaneously as a doctor with thick glasses abruptly enters with a nurse, a file clasped in her hand. Andreas swiftly moves away and walks to the foot of the bed. The doctor walks up to the bedside. The nurse stands slightly behind, militarily.
Good, you are awake. I'm Dr. Iglesias. I'm taking over for Dr. Jimenez, who had an emergency.
Madeleine nods yes. The doctor looks at Francois and Andreas as he pulls out an otoscope from his lapel.
Now, if you gentlemen will allow me to examine Miss Dupree.
Francois releases her hand and pushes back the chair with him still sitting. A screeching sound is heard as the chair slides back on the floor.
Yes, of course.
The doctor pulls out an otoscope from his lapel and bends down and examines her eyes. A beat later, he stands up, places his otoscope inside his lapel, and puts out his hand to the nurse. She quickly places the file into his palm. A beat. A serenity on Madeleine's face as the doctor speaks.
You are very lucky.
Francois is antsy and intervenes.
How soon can she leave?
And you are?
I'm her father.
The doctor nodding yes as he pulls out a pen from his white coat and makes a note in the file. The doctor turns and makes eye contact with Andreas, who stands at the foot of the bed.
And you are?
My name is Andreas Martinez. I'm an anthropologist from Mexico, and
Francois rudely intervenes.
he's a friend.
Andreas lowers his head as his hands squeeze the rail and his jaw grinds. The doctor glances back at Andreas and Francois and notices bad blood between the men. He raises an eyebrow in bewilderment. A beat. He fixes his glasses and professionally returns to his job.
Let me see. You have no broken bones, no damage to your internal organs. We detected a low platelet count in your red blood cells, but anemia can be easily treated.
A slight smile appears on Madeleine's face. The doctor shuffles a few pages, stops, and examines a report.
And the good news is that you're pregnant.
Madeleine's smile slowly fades away. Fade out. Next episode.